All right, recently in the community, someone asked this question. One thing that confuses me about Glide are screens. Glide automatically creates edit screens and details screens, but I don't know how to extend it much past that. Now, when I hear this question, I think it's important to remember that when you're creating an app in Glide or any kind of app builder, remember that an app is just an interface for you to interact with data. So when I hear this question, I really want to reword it to something more like this. What are all the ways I can interact with data in Glide? Now, in traditional coding and in any type of coding, there are 4 ways that you can interact with data. The first one is creating data. So you're creating a profile, creating a new task. There's reading, so you're looking up someone's profile, you're looking at a list of all of your text messages. Updating, you're updating your profile image, updating the location of a package, or you're deleting something, deleting an order or deleting a item from your wish list because you got it. Now, one thing, just a little tidbit here. If you notice the first 4 letters of these, there's C, R, U, and D. These are referred to as CRUD services. So in traditional coding world, if you ever hear CRUD, this is what it means. When you're working with a data set through an application, you're going to be creating, reading, updating, or deleting. Now, with that said, inside of Glide calls these something a little bit different. Instead of create, Glide uses the term add. Instead of reading, Glide uses the term view details. Instead of update, Glide uses the term edit. And well, they share the term deleting because that's pretty straightforward. So in this video, I want to show you how to do these 4 things. This is what we're going to learn how to do inside of Glide. And I'm reordering them a little bit just because it makes more sense that way. So we're going to first look at view details, then adding, then editing, then deleting, all inside of Glide. And I'm going to show you all the different ways you can do this so that you have a firm foundation to start interacting with data inside of your Glide app. All right, so now we are inside of the Glide builder. I am demoing this off of a template I just copied, and it is a Glide apps template. But if you're using Glide pages or some new product that Glide comes out with in the future, it's likely going to be something similar to this and use some of the same concepts. So with that said, let's start off with reading data or viewing details. So the first thing you'll come into whenever you create a project in Glide or you're uploading a spreadsheet and you want to create an app on top of that, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to have data inside of a table. So you can see here we have 4 different tables inside of Glide, inside of our data editor. And here we have a list of all of our tasks since this is a task app. Now the first thing you'll want to do is view this list on the screen inside of the app. And so to do that, Glide builds this for you automatically. But if you're going to do this from scratch, you just add a new screen, you make it a list screen, and then you point that list screen to your list of data. And then you can come over here to configure, which type of list you want to use. You can edit it, all of that good stuff. But what we have here now is a list of all of our tasks. So that's the first way you can read data or view your data is through a list screen. Now from there, once you have this list, you're going to want to look at a individual item. So in this case, I want to zero in, go deeper onto this individual task. Now, when we click on these, this goes to what is called a details screen inside of Glide. A little tidbit on that. Over here in the list, we have an action. And so you can see right here, the action for whenever I click on an item in the list is show details screen for this item. Now I could change this and I could change this to say, go to another tab every time I press on something. I don't think I would want to do that, but I could. So here, whenever I click on something, it's going to go to another tab. So all we're doing here is I just want to point out is you can do anything with these list items. You can create a custom action of your own. You can go to a edit screen. You can show a new screen, but by default, it goes to this thing called the details screen. This is where you're going to be viewing the details of an item. All right, let's get back to it. So we're viewing the details of an item. Now, a cool thing you might see somewhere on the screen is a way to look at the data for this item. And so right here, we can see that this individual page, this detail screen, corresponds to a single row inside of Glide. So you can see here, watch the 0 course. Here's the project, the key, and all of this corresponds to that. If we go back and then we come and select another item, we see that the detail screen for this corresponds to another row inside of our table. And we can customize this detail screen. I'm not going to get too deep on that, but if we wanted to add a hint field to maybe show our, let's see, we could show the key for some reason if we wanted to see that. You can do all that here on the details screen. Now, one more thing that usually trips people up is this detail screen is strongly tied, directly tied to this row. So whenever you view this row or you view this task, you're going to see this. So for example, if I go to projects and then I go to Tina's birthday, and then I go to the task buy cake here, it's pulling up this exact same screen. You can see the key we just added there, that's showing there. That's because if we go back and we look at this list, the action here is show details screen. Now, what if you want a custom screen for some different scenario? You want to build a screen off of the same row of data, but you want it to look different. You don't want it to be the detail screen, but you want the detail screen to still exist. This in Glide you can do through a action called show new screen. So let me add in a button here. And for this, we'll just say go there for now. And the action I'm going to change this to is show new screen. So this is going to create a completely custom screen. And the data I want behind that screen is this item. So that'd be the details for this task. And then I'll just clear out the name there. And now we can say go. So here, remember, let's look at the data. We have the same data row we're looking at, but then here it looks completely different. And we can customize this. We can delete all. And then maybe on this screen, we just want to show the name of the project and no image. And yeah, so now we have a custom screen based off this row, but if we go back, we can still see the detail screen is not changed. So those are the 3 primary ways you're going to be viewing details inside of Glide. You have the list screen, you have the detail screen, and then you have the show new screen. So now we've learned how to read data, we've shown data, all of that good stuff, looking at detail screens, new screens. So let's get back to the regularly scheduled program. Let's talk about creating data or adding rows. The first way to add rows is inside of a list. This is the most common way. So here we have a checklist, and on the list itself, there is an add form. Now this only works if the list and this works in Glide apps when the list is the entire screen. So this doesn't work if you have an inline list on a detail screen. So anyways, we have the list. We can go to add form and you can turn it on and off here. You can see the plus button there. You can control who gets to use this here. So if we add a new task, put a project on it and click add, now this new task has just been added. So the first way to add new data is through the add form. Now, this add form is not always available. Like I mentioned a second ago, it doesn't work when you have an inline list like you see here. There's no add form over here. So the way to add from somewhere else in the app when you're not on the list view is to use a form screen. So you can see right here, it says add new task, and you're adding a task to this project here. And what this does is if I click on this form screen, right here you can see the action is set to show form screen. Show form screen. And so what that does is when you click on that, it opens up a form, and you can pick where this form is pointed to. Where do you want to add a row to? So in this case, we want to add a new task. And then here I specified the name of the task I want to add and the due date. And then since I know the project that I'm on, you can see I'm on this project. I want to add a project to this. We already have the project specified. So in this case, I don't actually have to do that. And the way you can plug that in is you click here, you go to values from screen, and then here you can pick the name of the project, and then you would assign it to the project field. And so here I can say my second task and submit that. And now our second task is there, and we can go back to our task list and we can see the second task is added there as well. Now the last way that you can add data, or common way you can add data, is to not use a form at all. So let's add a fun button here, and we will call this create empty task. And so what I want to do is whenever I click on this button, I'm going to change the color to, I just want to add a new task here. So whenever I click on this button, instead of showing the form screen, I want to add a row here. So I'm going to click this action, add row. And whenever I click this button, I want to add a row to tasks. And I want to give it a name of empty task. And then is favorited, that's good. Project, I want to use this project name. So I'm going to use the name of this project. The due date, I'll do custom, status, and then unique key, that's fine. So now with this button in place, all I have to do is click create empty task, and it creates a task for me. Create empty task, it creates one. I don't have to do anything other than press the button. I don't have to enter in any information. Now, in this scenario, you might not want to do that, but it's especially helpful when you're on a screen like here and you want to maybe add something to someone's favorite list or add something to someone's cart. That's when you would really use something like this. You're on some screen and you want to add a row to another table and you have all the data you need. You don't need the user to enter anything. That's when you would use the add row action. All right, so now we have gone through viewing the details of data and adding data. So the third thing we wanted to talk about was editing data. So similar to adding data, if you go to the view detail screen, Glide has an edit form already built in. So you can see here, edit form is currently turned on, and I can turn it off, turn it back on. I can control who sees this here. And here I can click on the edit button, and Glide has this edit form already built for me out of the box whenever I create a new project. And so here I can change the title of this to add a check mark, click done, and now that is added. So that is the edit screen. Now you can also open this edit screen from somewhere else inside of the app. So if you didn't want to use this button and you wanted to use a custom button like this one right here, let's change this to, we can change this to show the edit screen, and I can rename this to edit. And so here I can open up the edit screen. And so that's just a different way to open up the same screen. Similar way of doing it, just a different way of accessing it. But another way that you might not think about as actually editing data is here on the detail screen, you can actually edit data directly. So consider this due date, for example. On the edit screen, if I did not have this here, so like if I deleted this, if I wanted to, and let me actually show the date here. Okay, there we go. So it's not showing yet, okay, because we haven't set it. So if I wanted to add a due date to this task, I would have to click on edit here, come to due date, specify the due date, and then click done. And then now my due date is showing. But what if we want basically quicker access to updating that? In this case, we can actually put the date picker itself on the screen, the detail screen directly. And now, if we point this field to our due date, now we can update the due date without actually having to go to the edit form. So this is great when you want to quickly update something like status here. I can quickly update that, but you don't want to put anything here that you want people to like confirm that they want to update. So like here, if there's something important that you want people to double check that they want to save that, click done, then that's something you'd want to keep on the edit form. Now, similar to how we could add a row directly from clicking a button, we can also edit rows directly from clicking a button. So here, let me add in another button below edit here. And I'm just going to call this mark complete. And what this button will do is set the status field to complete whenever we click the button. So we can do this through our action, and this action is called set column values. So we can choose set column values, and this will change basically change whatever elements we want to change from our table. So you can see here we have a table, remember a detail screen points at a row in our table, and then the set column values action will set one of those values. So in this case, we want to set the status to true whenever we click on this button. And so here we can click on mark as complete now, and now our status goes to true. We can uncheck status here to turn that back off, and then we can mark it as complete again. And here we can just keep on pressing this, and it's always just going to set that value to true. So this is how you can edit a value from a button. We can use a custom or a set column values action through a button. All right, so now we can talk about deleting data. This was the last way that we can interact with data. We've talked about reading and adding and editing. Let's talk about deleting. So similar to adding and editing, we have deleting out of the box inside of Glide. If we go to the edit form on a detail screen, we have this delete button right here. We can turn this on and off right here, and we can control who can do this by setting a condition here. In this case, we just want to delete this item. Let's go ahead and confirm that, and Glide is going to delete that. So let's go ahead and just confirm. Let's go to my second task here, click edit and delete. And then now my second task is gone. Now, if for some reason you're not using the edit screen directly, or you can't delete from that spot, well then you can use a button. So let me go ahead and copy this edit, and then I'll name this delete. The mood will be danger. All right, so now I want to delete this, call this task, and Glide has a action for deleting tasks. If we just search for delete, it will delete this row whenever we click this button. So let me click on that. You can see here the task has deleted, but we haven't gone back to the previous screen. So this introduces I guess a new concept if you're new to Glide, because basically what we need to do is whenever we delete this, we also need to tell Glide, okay, now it's deleted, go back, because we're doing this custom deletion action. So what we have to do here is, instead of just doing delete row, we would do what's called creating a new action. And what this does is bring up Glide's action editor. And we want to do two things here. We want to delete the current row, and then we want to go back. So it's a two-step process. We'll give this a name and then save. And so now we have this custom action called delete. And when I delete this, it's going to go back to the previous screen. So every time I delete something, it's going to delete it and then go back to the previous screen. But what if we wanted a button that would mark as complete when it was not complete, and then mark as incomplete when it was complete? So basically a toggle button. So let's call this toggle status. So there are a couple ways to do this, but I'll show you the most direct way right now. And that is to use a custom action like we just did for deleting. But instead of just doing two tasks, we need to check something first. So what this looks like is, right now what we're doing, let me go ahead and set this up, is we're doing set column values, set status to true. Now we want to do this when, and so I'm going to add this step up here, when our status is not checked. So when status is not checked, status is not complete, then we want to set the status to true. However, if it is checked, if this is not true, then we want to set the column values and then set our status to clear value. We can name this toggle status and then save. And so now this button should toggle this status every time we press it. So it toggles off, toggle on, toggle off, toggle on. And you can use this conditional logic for anything we've talked about so far, for adding things, for editing things, and for deleting things. This is where you can get really advanced, and you can even start to string all these together. And in some cases, you'll have, 8 separate actions all coming together. All right, so I hope this video has been helpful for you. You should now know all the ways that you can interact with data inside of Glide. You can view the details of data, you can add data, you can edit data, and delete data. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.